started. Okay, so we're on record now. So because we don't yet have the token launched, so I think the video will be like the most honest way on publishing this in a sense. I mean, I'm not intending to openly publish this on YouTube, but it should be published in a way that's accessible to community members, I feel. And then they can use the same resource to educate themselves and be aware of what we have discussed. Okay, let me just quickly introduce you to what happened. So all of you know, Alana came to be through the Digitalax ecosystem. Emma was or is a main supporter of the whole Alana idea, and that needs to be acknowledged in that context as well. Just recently, while Emma has always been very strong on the idea of CC0, which means like open source licensing, only through the article that I actually posted into our Nucleus chat the other day, it became more of, well, kind of an ultimatum where we would either fully embrace the idea of CC0, or we would not longer be able to use the infrastructure of Digitalax. Right now, we are 100% depending on that infrastructure, meaning their marketplace, meaning their smart contracts, meaning, yeah, well, everything that really comes with it. Emma has been endorsing Alana in, I think most of you were given to this file when onboarding to GDN, where Alana is actually being, yeah, well named of like some sort of a mascot for the GDN. That is also something that should be mentioned at that point. And yeah, so, well, okay, now I'm making my case. I think, is that okay, Glenn? Should I start, or do you want to start? Do you want to first?
No, I think we should probably talk about C0. I mean, you sort of said it was open sourcing licensing, which is great. I guess the term that they use is dedicating your stuff to the public domain, and waiving all your rights essentially. But this is a little bit different for coding as opposed to what you guys are doing, which is like a digimodel, or if you have like a fashion apparel. It's a little bit different, I think, just the idea behind it, because most people do CC0 for like some code or something like this, right? Software essentially, and people can freely fork the software and not have to worry about being sued by the original creator of that code, something like that.
Yeah. Do you guys have questions about CC0? Maybe let's get that first out of the way before we make our cases. So all of you have a good understanding now, right?
So it's basically just public domain stuff, right? Like becomes public domain, like you can't make money off of it, and it's all free for anyone to edit.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Wait, I was confused about the part it's like from a certain point that everything will be CCO, but
right. No, you're right on the Digitalax marketplace. What Emma had said in the article that was released recently is that everything going forward that's published there or that's listed there has to be CC0. Everything prior to that it's not going to be retroactively applied essentially.
So, like the things that cost sorry to cut you off. The things that cost money to mint right now, they'll be free in the future, or like they cost money.
Yeah, if you mint an NFT and then you list it on the Digitalax platform for sale, it has to be CC0. So anyone can take your fashion garments, like you're providing the source file. Anyone can actually take the fashion garment and do whatever they want with it at that point in time.
So how does that stop someone very powerful with a lot of influence and resources coming to take a designer's work and then using it as their own? Like, for example, like if Gucci came and took a design and just marketed it around the world. Is that what they want to happen?
Yeah, so the idea being here is that the original person, right? So this has happened with other projects where they have dedicated it to the public works. So what ends up happening is a lot of people do these derivative works from that project, right? And it brings more recognition, I guess, provenance to the original actual author or whatever artist, designer, right? So it builds a stronger brand for them. That's the idea for doing something like public domain. At least on the NFT side of things, right? There's a few projects that have done this. I think one of those is Crypto Toads. The other one is something called Nouns, I want to say. But anyone can use those NFTs. They're 2D artworks essentially, and do whatever they want with those. They can even launch their own like project, copying what they had before. And usually, what ends up happening is that the original one usually has the most value, and then the derivative works, they just give it more recognition.
This is actually where my argument would come in, because I'm not opposed. Glenn has spoken to me and, multiple conversations about the benefits of CC0. So at some point, I was like super convinced that this is something we would want to do eventually anyways. My only critique about this actually comes in two phases. One critique is, strategically, I don't think it will right now bring value to our project. We're way too early, Like Alana is close to getting 1,000 followers on Twitter. As much as I'm proud of this, it actually doesn't mean anything. It's, so low scale, meaning if someone would do now a derivative, it wouldn't look like a derivative. It would essentially look like the normal customer wouldn't be able to differentiate between the original and the derivative. And I don't think that is very beneficial to bring value to our brand. Instead, if you look at a project like Artifact and their puffer jacket, so what they did is, they had this massive success with this puffer jacket, and then they made it open source for everyone to use. Well, that resulted in bringing a lot of value to their project. So, I would rather think of it as something that we would want to do, but we would want to apply it in a strategic manner. The second problem I have with this, or where I'm making my negative case, is the fact that all of this is being imposed on us and not voted on. GDN and Digitalax are supposed to be DAOs, right? So there should have been written up a proposal that would allow us as members of those communities to vote on that matter, And honestly, also my personal opinion, that's less the case. It's like life is a spectrum of things. It's not like one or the other. It's usually the hybrid that we create in between. And this is also something that I don't feel is happening in that case.
Yeah, so the voting bit is kind of interesting because this is a Digitalax initiative, right? That's happening, and they do have token holders. So anyone that has Mona is someone that can vote in the DAO, and like someone like myself, I can actually vote. But the problem is right now is that all of the proposals are essentially only. I want to say only one of the wallets. I want to say maybe it's Emma's wallet that can actually make a proposal in Snapshot. So it's not like someone like me, even though I'm a token holder, I can actually put up my own proposals. It has to go through the governance forums, discuss there, and then Emma would eventually put this up for vote in Snapshot. So part of the reason I think why that was happening was because Digitalax was never a DAO from day one. It only started, I want to say, sometimes late last year when people actually got the chance to vote on some proposals, like they pick a designer of the week or some stuff like this, right? That only happened late last year, but I think the idea being that it's always going to be a slowly ramp up to full like decentralization when the DAO controls everything. And I don't think they are there yet where someone like me can actually just go there and make proposals. It has to be still someone has to like look at it, see if it makes sense, and then only can it actually go up for a vote in the DAO.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did it go up for a vote in the DAO?
It has not, as far as I know. I have not seen
So
this.
that's what you're saying is strange, Stella. You think that's strange?
Yeah, I actually, in this case, I think Glenn and we both feel it's strange.
Okay.
Because, the Web3 is supposed to be about self-sovereignty, self-governance, and it's like the core of Web3, of the Web3 mindset, and also, about decentralization. And that hasn't happened in that case. And I personally think that the reason why this hasn't happened, but this is obviously pure speculation at that point, is the fact that Digitalax received the grant from Rarible, and they have been talking in their tweets a lot about the CC0 stuff, which makes a lot of sense. If you have this, like, as an ecosystem, build up this huge CC0 library, and then you have, an artist platform where people can actually come from their ecosystem to, get stuff from us for free, essentially, that they can use to produce more art for their ecosystem. I mean, it's very beneficial to, receive a funding for that. And it makes a lot of sense because this is going to drive a lot of value to Digitalax. It's going to drive a lot of value to Rarible. Will it drive really value to, the smaller projects under this umbrella? At this point, since none of us are really established yet, I highly doubt that. So what I'm saying is not being against CC0, but rather the way it's being imposed. And, the other part is that it's actually not really connected to Digitalax. The other part of this is that since I've come to Denver, I have realized that, with the roadmap that, or not right roadmap, the almanac that I put up in Elena's pitch deck, all of the things we want to build, from like her metaverse to her AI pod, we cannot do any of that on the within the Digitalax ecosystem, because Digitalax is, it's just a marketplace where we can sell. So we anyway need to look at this as, trying to figure out where to actually build Alana's home base on the blockchain. Like, where is that going to be? Which gives us the most accessibility, the most decentralized version of Alana, where we can build a metaverse on, where we can build an AI user interface on, where we can eventually also build our own marketplace on, but also a blockchain that's kind of agnostic, where we can link to, other blockchains and get her on those blockchains as well. So realizing that after coming here, I was like, okay, this is a more essential question that I formerly had anticipated. And I'm kind of sorry for, not having seen that up front. I should have seen that way earlier. But well, it's out there now. So it's kind of like the decision that we have to make is essentially, do we want that being imposed on us? Do we want to be free of that? Because sadly, there is no offering for a hybrid. I would much rather prefer that, to be honest, because Alana was born in that, in that community, and I would have liked her to stay in that community. But they like, Emma is not offering us any hybrid version of this, where we can say, like, yeah, let's say, for example, after like an NFT is being sold, all the contents are being made open source and uploaded to the GitLab library. That could be an option, right? This is a hybrid. We don't open source the model or the clothing before a sale, but after it has been sold, we actually open source the garments. That could have been a hybrid, for example, but this is not something that Emma wants. She wants, the one or the other. And so, yeah, we are essentially being forced to make that decision. Like, ask away if there's more you want to ask, please. Sorry.
I would be okay with this, or more okay if there was like a royalty, because at least, like, we're, being acknowledged, and, compensated. Why not? But I don't know. It's kind of weird. Remember when you were showing me your Git book and you were telling me, oh, there's an option if you want to put the project for open source, and even I had a hard time being like, I don't know, like,
this is why I was like, I don't want to force anyone to make this decision. This is why I put this there, like, it's an option if the designer feels comfortable with it. And then it's awesome, right? If you feel comfortable with it and you're willing to do this, you have the option to do it. And then for the designers who don't feel like it, they can, it's like, a parallel existence. It's not like one thing is better than the other. It should be both should be fine. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wish there would be a hybrid solution, but sadly the article is very, very on point with this. I hope you all read it. It's like either you fully embrace or the infrastructure of Digitalax will not be at disposal.
But have you guys tried talking to Emma or okay.
Yeah, I've heard.
I was gonna say sorry. I was gonna just quickly say that it's there's no gray area. I mean, even though it's either yes or no, there's no like in between for this, at least if you're gonna be using Digitalax. But it's interesting because if you look at other protocols or projects, usually you don't go all in on day one, as in like just look at what Digitalax did with their governance, right? They're not 100% fully decentralized now. It's sort of like a it's a slow process that they're building towards that, right? They can potentially apply or allow that for an artist as well. Like they don't have to be full C0 from day one, right? They can sort of provide the tooling and the guidance for them to reach that goal maybe at some point in the future if that's what they want to do, right? Eventually, maybe at that point in time, everyone knows that Alana is a recognizable avatar or model, whatever you want to call it, right? And you're ready at that point in time to actually go full CC0. But it seems like right now it's like you either do this now or that's it. You're not going to be able to use our platform anymore, and that's what it's going to be going forward.
Yeah, that's actually exactly the discussion. She sent this to me, the documentation about this. She sent this to me like a few days before I started traveling. And I told her, like, I will have a look at this. Don't worry. Like, this is definitely a thing for us. Just not sure if right now is the time for it. That was like my spontaneous answer. And this is when she replied to me and told me I'm a gatekeeper. And this is when I got very upset because you guys know that the file is out there. Everyone who was able to handle Blender by themselves, I actually sent the full Alana file to. So I feel very far from gatekeeping anything. I didn't even like, censor the designers who came in. Kevin knows this. I did his stuff first because he was the first person to hand in stuff. I didn't curate or select any designs. I just went really in the order of the files being handed in. So I don't feel Alana is actually being gate kept in any way. Anyone can really come into this community and tell us like, hey, we want to run a project with Alana, and I showed you the collaboration guidelines for clarification. So the only thing I'm actually demanding is to not put her into a context that's like degrading to a female avatar. That's literally the only thing I'm asking. So I feel like we're very far from gatekeeping anything, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
With Emma's theory, she could, for example, take Alana and put her into something. Someone else could come and take Alana and put it into something pornographic. They could take Kevin's designs and like sell them as their own, and the only way people would know.
Yeah, that was exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was exactly my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and the reason is because they think that brings more value to you. I don't understand how that doesn't.
Yeah. So the thing
devalue. I know I'm coming from a different place because I've only had experience with how sort of copyright works now.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's confusing.
No, it's fine. It's actually very confusing with, especially people from our background. This is why Glenn is here, to make the case from, more of a coding perspective, because we are in fact combining, fashion and design with coding in a sense. So the thing is, if you have if you make a code open source on something like a platform called GitHub, people will be able to fork your code. But then at the same time, oh, Kevin just dropped out. I hope he's coming back. But at the same time, it's like being recognized that the code has been forked. So there's some kind of verification for that. Other than with the design, there is no verifier process. So someone could, for example, take Kevin's clothing and really, like you said, just tell people, hey, I made this, and nobody would fucking know. And so with Alana, I was like, if she has let's say she has 100,000 followers, right? Then that becomes a very different discussion, because the project is that kind of famous that people will know what is the original and what a fan made out of this. So thinking, I don't know if you guys are familiar with mangas or comics, but in manga you have that a lot. Yeah, you have an original project that's super successful, and then fans are making artwork based on that original comic. And because the original project was so successful, everyone knows that specific style. So there is no question about what is the original and what's the derivative or the fan art behind it. But right now, we are not there yet. This is essentially what I'm saying, And like I said, I want to, if it would be just me deciding, I want you guys to be able to, let's say, one day be like, hey, yeah, I would actually admit this piece of clothing I made to the GitLab library and make it accessible for people to use, And I don't want to force you guys. That's, I think, the most important part to me. I don't want Alana being shown in circumstances that don't match her brand, for example, pornographic content, because she is more than just a digimodel. She's supposed to teach people reliably, confidently about Web3. So having out there pornographic content that probably will spread faster than educational content, that will not benefit our project at all, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, everyone here should be familiar with Blender, the actual software. That is free and open source software, right? So anyone can actually, I guess anyone can actually take that software, do whatever they want with it. That's why you have a lot of these community plugins, right? People can easily create a plugin for Blender, and anyone can use that because the source code is there and it's available for everyone. Anyone can examine it. So you do get a lot more collaboration in that sense. But the other thing is that, if someone really wants to actually use Alana in pornographic content, they're going to do that. Even if you say no, that's going to happen regardless. Someone could easily, I'm guessing they can replicate Alana maybe in a couple of weeks. I know we had discussed about making Alana CC0 from scratch, and that's going to take 2 weeks. I'm assuming it to be a similar timeline for anyone trying to make Alana from scratch without the files, right? So I see that as happening regardless. That does not mean that we would have to support it. We don't have to endorse it or recognize that that we stand for that, because that's not what we want to do, right? That's not how I guess our rules or our vision for what Alana should be. She should not be used in those types of scenarios.
Are you guys being super confused about this, or does this start to make sense to you, where those two perspectives are coming from?
No, the Blender example is a good example to understand how it's still called Blender, we all still know it.
Yeah.
And then people can just add into it. It's just I think it's just because fashion is art, and art is from your soul or wherever it comes from. It's so interlinked with something so deeply personal. I think that's why people have a hard time.
And the other example, there's another example that you see this with, like the Disney stuff. I know Disney's super protective about Mickey Mouse, and they've always been lobbying to like extend the law that requires something to be public works after like X amount of years. They've been trying to extend that all the time because they don't want Mickey Mouse to be used by anyone else, essentially. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, sorry.
I mean, I agree that it's way too early for Alana. I think there should be some sort of like a knowledge behind her that people like iconic about her, and then go open source. Because right now, if you go open source, I mean, it really could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, we could even set this to maybe not a time, like literally date, but we could decide on, let's say, an online status of some sort, So let's say if she reaches like 50,000 followers on Twitter, I know it's just a random number. We can discuss on that, obviously. This could be the time, to publish officially the file of her, like as a CC0 file, for example. Yeah,
that's true. We like an event thing too.
Yeah, we
like
could
a landmark. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like a landmark. We could publicize this, all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
The other thing that can be done is like right now it's only the Alana core team is sort of deciding on stuff, right? It would be like a lot more stronger if this came from like the entire community, right? Like at some point in the future, if we pose this question not just to us, but if we pose a question to everyone that has a stake in Alana, maybe whoever's a token holder, whatever that's called, Candy or something like that, right?
Right.
And we let them vote for it, right? See what they think should be done, right? That way it's not just us that are sort of making this choice or decision for Alana.
Right.
It's her community that's deciding on whether this is the right move for us to make.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that was, sorry, Glenn, I should have told you before. That would have been like the second part of today. That we decide on, making this decision and this video available to maybe not the entire community right now, but I was thinking to our alter citizen, because we only have one, which is Domingo right now, on our alter citizen, and everyone else in the community here on Discord who is like on a collaborator tag. That's like, I think right now 22 people, and we have like one citizen, so 23 people plus us making this decision. I think it's it's still not everyone, but I think that would be the people who would be most affected by this decision. So I think it's just fair for them, for like all of us to make this decision actually together, which is one of the reasons, besides, Kevin not being able to be here and Katie not being able to be here to record this discussion. So they can, they have like the same access of information that all of us in this chat have. Are you guys okay with that proposal? That it's not just us, but also the collaborators and the citizen?
Yes.
I agree, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think so too.
I'm on the Fabricants website, and they used to, like, they would put up their files for, like, whatever up there, and anyone could go and edit them. And funny thing, I don't see anything. You can't download anything anymore. At one point, like, I've downloaded so many things from there because so many cool things. Not anymore. So I don't know if that gives to any certain case, but I just found that curious.
Interesting.
Yeah, I could barely speak. Sorry, but yeah.
No, that is interesting indeed. Although I have to say, we want to be Web3. They are really not. So I don't want to go against my own case here. But I mean, Alana is like the Web3 girl. So we want to go for, decentralization and everything that comes with it. But yeah, I agree. It should be a choice for every creator. I think that's very important. I don't want to force anyone to submit their creations to an open source database. And when it comes to Alana, it should be a community choice to do it or not do it, and also decide on the right timing for it that strategically makes sense. Because I mean, this is called Realm, but essentially we're trying to run a business, right? So even though our intentions are pure and kind, we still would want to love it if we could eventually, monetize this. So I think strategic decisions need to be made for that to happen. And if you look at, the DeFi side of things, that's also what they are doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be handling like tons of millions of dollars in their protocols. So, if we ever want to catch up to this as creatives, we definitely need to make decisions in a smart way and not just in a kind way. Okay, last part of this is, I want you guys to, I will have to do more research to be able to present this to you. And I think research will be mostly done by Glenn and myself. But yeah, we should discuss if, this decision turns out to be not committing to, what Digitalax wants from us. It means we also have to look for alternatives and what those alternatives could be like, And like I said, here in Denver, I had the opportunity to talk to a few people that told me stuff that made a lot of sense to me, stuff I never had thought about before. So I'm trying to figure out right now how to present all of this to you in a concise and understandable manner. And then we should also probably vote on that, I would assume. But that would be then probably more really an alter core, no, not Orash, sorry, an Alana Nucleus decision, I guess, because we would be the ones to work out that infrastructure, no one else. So that question will affect us the most, I suppose. Yeah, but do you guys want to voice your opinions right now, or would you like this to be done after I have uploaded this video and made it accessible to collaborators and citizens alike? How do you feel about this?
I trust you guys. I'm happy to take advice from those who are more knowledgeable and have more understanding.
I mean, this was actually the reason why we wanted to do it the way we just did it, so that you would feel more comfortable with making this decision by yourself.
Oh no.
I mean, all of this comes with, pros and cons. I think aside from, having been like kind of the founder of this, I think the personal fact that I really don't like extremes. I don't like to be forced to decide for black or white. Life is a spectrum of grays, and I think the more people would admit to that fact, the healthier our planet would be. So, I can tell you guys already, I'm going to vote against it.
Me too.
Isn't Glenn's one of Glenn's points was that it's just the beginning and it could kind of evolve and develop as things move on.
Yeah, it's go for it. Sorry.
No, that did I understand your point correctly in that?
Yeah, I mean, anyone can. You can always open source later. There's nothing that says that we have to do this now. And I think, I mean, the argument is good, right? There shouldn't be a binary choice, yes or no. Someone should be able to do this later if they want, right? They shouldn't be forced to do it now. And I think a lot of artists or designers that are on Digitalax are going to have to be faced with the same decision that Alana is being faced with now, right? There's other realms there that are going to have to make a similar choice, whether they are going to actually embrace CC0 or they're not going get support. That's what it sounds like. You're not going to be able to get any engineering support from Digitalax. They're not going to help you with anything. Essentially, you're on your own at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, like on the software side, it makes sense in that open source projects, typically what they end up doing is they make their stuff for free, right? But the way they monetize it is that they actually provide some sort of like consultation service for that software. So if I'm a company, right, I will use your software for free, but then I would actually purchase support. And I would purchase support from you because you are essentially the one that made it, like you understand the code. If I have a bug or something, I can actually reach out to you. That's how they sort of monetize it in the software world, right? I'm not sure if there's a similar model for like Alana, right? Like this is something new that hasn't been explored yet, right?
Yeah.
We give out the file to someone, right? They can do whatever they want. They might actually attribute the work to us if they're nicely, right? They say, hey, this came from Stella or this realm, right? They're the ones that originally created, or they can just not give us any credit and no one would know unless Alana was kind of famous and they would recognize that, okay, this is a Digi avatar model. And then someone would get that recognition. Other than that, I don't see how the monetization would come into effect unless they actually like hit us up for a collab or some sort of a partnership like this, right? Where we are working together with them, right?
Which is the absolute possibility right now. Everyone, like I said, can come in. I won't, deliberately license anyone or, restrict anyone in their creation, aside from like the fact I don't want her to look like being degraded in some way. So we already have that, but yeah, I mean, it's not an easy decision, and just know that whatever you want to decide, I will not take this personally just because I have my own opinion about it. I get that this has, many perspectives. Like I said, life is fucking gray. Even Kirsty, if you say like, I think this is actually a good idea, that's like totally fine for me. What might happen is what's happening now in Digitalax and GDN is that some creators will leave the network. So that would be also something that could happen to us. We have right now 22 collaborators that I've started to build up over the past few months. It might be that we end up only having 10 or 9 anymore, right? That's something to consider as well, I guess. Because we would need to force them to make their work open source as well.
I'm curious what other people think, or like, again, I read the article twice and I was just like, what alien language is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
know. I was like, people aren't talking about it in the chat. Like, I thought it was weird, but then
so weird. We should have,
like no one's asking questions, nothing. I thought, okay, I'm just going to wait for this call because
no, I don't think they understand.
Number one, it's difficult to understand, and there's no examples of if you're a designer, this is what it means for you.
True. Yeah.
Because we're not, like, a lot of people aren't coders, so they're not building programs. They're doing something creative. It's different. That's why, yeah, an example of how that would benefit a designer that wants to build a business and a realm. How's it going to benefit you from starting small? Does anyone have the answer to that?
In my opinion, it doesn't. It will not benefit you. This is what I've been saying. There was, like I said, it was my first reaction to when I was talking to Emma.
What's her strategy? What's Emma's opinion? What's her opinion answer to that? What's her strategy? How is she going to convert new upcoming designers? What she's selling them?
I'm not sure because like honestly, it's like for Digitalax, this is going to be huge. If they can provide other ecosystems like Rarible, like Foundation, with an open source 3D library, it will be huge for Digitalax. I cannot tell you how this is going to be huge at this stage for any of the small realms underneath Digitalax, I cannot tell you, because I don't see a benefit in it personally. I think the benefit comes if you have reached a certain size. So, like I told you, like the Artifact project, right? When they knew that Puffer Jacket was like super successful, this is when they were smart about it, and they distributed it to everywhere. They even made like retopologized models for it, so it could be used in Ready Player Me and a ton of other, kind of metaverses. Like I think there's even an Artifact jacket now for Decentraland. So this was a super smart and strategic move, right? And that actually really drove value back to them. And still, this is the only thing they ever made open source. Just saying, this is the only thing. So, in that context, and looking also at other like the Bored Apes, for example, imagine the Bored Apes would have made the Bored Apes file public before launching. It feels like that would have been the same situation. Like, first of all, why would have been anyone interested in that, right? Because Bored Apes didn't mean shit to anyone. Yeah. Sorry. And
just monkey.
Just like a random monkey, right? Like, why would I care? People started caring after it became popular. And then
the story behind it.
Yeah, and then they started to create the derivatives. And that's when it started to drive value back to the original project. So this is why I'm saying, like, I'm not against this. I'm just very much interested in choosing the right time for it. And make it an option, Like, even if we make Alana open source, doesn't need to mean we have to make all the garments open source. We should have the collaborator decide if they want to do it or not. They should feel comfortable with us. They should feel like this is a safe space for them to create and not like, yet again, kind of an exploiting space. Because if we if we force collaborators then to open source their garments and they are unknown, how is this going to drive value back to them again, So I feel this is kind of a Web3 version of going back to Web2 again, where we force people to do stuff and where we don't really care how it drives value back to them. To me personally, it's very hypocritical. It's not what I signed up for, which is actually, and Glenn knows this, I've been very depressed and sad for the past few days about this topic. I'm not happy with this because Alana started to grow in this community, and essentially she's being forced to decide on either one or the other. And I'm not happy about the situation at all. I'm sad about it.
I'm just shocked, like how this was kind of gone about. I thought, when Emma sent that thing, I thought, it was a decision made with, people who vote. And I think that's like the main problem for me, I think. More than anything, how it was done.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem going forward, like bigger problem going forward for the community.
Yeah, I mean, I won't contribute to GDN anymore. I will not leave the server yet. But I personally, as like Stella Achenbach, I will not contribute anymore. I have made this decision because I don't agree with dictatorship behaviors. Not for something that is supposed to be better.
I totally agree. I was thinking about like my realm too, and I've been talking to a lot of different people about this, and some guy said like eventually, like, we'll all have our own websites, our own platforms, and you could just connect your wallet, but like obviously that person needs confidence to connect their wallet and all this stuff. So I'm also like thinking like, what am I? Gladly, I haven't done too much, and maybe this is why the world has pushed me not to do too. I don't know, but fuck, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's interesting because we've discussed some of this, and we've also discussed, there are many other platforms out there. You can choose wherever you want to go. or I mean, I think Digitalax has always said it. You're free to do what you want, or free to
Yes.
go, right? And the way I see it is, you can have your realm with Digitalax, right? And if you're selling for potential like fashion garments, you can decide whether those are you want to, like, if you're comfortable with making those public domain, you can sell it through there. If not, you can go to another platform, right? And you can pick and choose wherever you want to be. And ultimately, that's also kind of good in that sense that you're not tied to one place, right? You always have a backup plan. You're sort of like have a contingency plan in case something like this happens, right? And I think that's sort of smart for us to actually contemplate whether we want to sort of start looking at other places as well. We're on Polygon, right? I know there's good arguments for being on Polygon. There's the stuff where it's a proof of stake system, right? It doesn't have a lot of high energy needs, right? But there's other places like Luxo. I know that's being built right now. And there's Dematerialized. I think that's on top of Luxo as well. So Luxo is a blockchain where you can also mint NFTs, and that's going to eventually go live and be available for people to actually use. There's other blockchains out there. I know some of you are familiar with Tezos, and that's where some people actually mint as well, and they have marketplaces there. So there's many options out there for us to.
Question, what do you think about Luxo? Because some guy was telling me yesterday, you need to get on that. Watch out for that. And I was like, okay, I don't know a lot, but cool.
I mean, they're specializing essentially in providing services to fashion people. So it's definitely something that should be on our map, I think. The only problem is that this project has been continuously delayed, which tells me like, yeah, we should get in on it, but we shouldn't expect to be selling anything there anytime soon. So maybe we're talking end of this year for that one. Actually, Glenn has shared with me, Catherine, the Manifold website. So I think that's probably a smart move to look into because we can write our own smart contracts for it. I've been talking over here to the Algorand people. Algorand is also a blockchain, but with the is it like the contract language they're using, right, Glenn? Reach is their contract language.
Reach is it's essentially an SDK that lets you essentially, you can think of it as you can write a smart contract through Reach and then deploy on Algorand and other places. That's my understanding. So
Yes.
when you compile it, you can decide what the target environment is. So that way you're not if you have multiple blockchains, you can just write once and then deploy everywhere. I think that's like the main point for using something
Ask
like
a
Reach.
dumb question.
Mhm.
So, okay, these websites like Manifold, you create the contract and that's all it's for, but then you take that and you put it onto another platform. Yes?
So Manifold, from what it looks like, they're pretty much on Ethereum right now, right? So when you mint through, like, let's say OpenSea or another platform like Rarible, right? The minting contract is has some metadata that says, this thing was minted by Stella and it's called this, etc. But other people are also minting with the same contract, so that when you look at everything that's minted with that contract, you will see everyone's stuff or everyone's NFTs that have been minted. Now, some people don't typically like that because they want to see something that's unique from a designer or creator that they have their own actual minting contract, so that when you look at the stuff that's been minting by the artist, they will only see the stuff that they've minted, not what everyone else has minted. So Manifold lets you do both the former, and also they're planning on letting you do the latter, where you can actually essentially deploy your own minting contract, and you can mint your own unique NFTs through them, and they'll be recognizable, so that anyone that is looking at what has been minted by contract shows only your stuff, essentially.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, it's pretty interesting and probably like the fastest solution to build something for Alana or also for Digivoke, where the art becomes very much attached to the artist and doesn't end up on, let's say, OpenSea foundation account, but actually ends up on your account or like the project's account. So I think there's a lot of benefit in that. But like I told you, all of those are just platforms, meaning if we want to build what I've put together in the almanac, then we anyway need to look really for a bigger solution of towards all of this. And Laxo is definitely interesting, but also they are very focused on marketplace. So we for example, right? Let's say we build on Algorand and we do it with Reach, and those guys are super supportive. They don't have yet a lot going on, which means whichever blockchain then we deploy on, right, we will get probably a lot of attention because there's not so much stuff going on there yet. And we make it accessible for people who want to pay in ETH. We made it accessible for people who want to collect on Thesis. This whole idea of making Alana a very accessible and equal kind of NFT big project becomes much more real through building it on something like this. And then it doesn't mean we cannot, we could even still do stuff on Digitalax. We just need to make sure we're building it, whatever we publish on Digitalax will then, it will be open sourced. That's just, but let's say we take a break from it for now because, well, right now we don't actually want to maybe open source Alana, right? We could still get back to it after Alana is being open sourced. There's nothing that speaks against it, but we still need to make a decision now to, commit to, for example, open sourcing her after she gains, 50,000 followers, or open sourcing her right now within the Digitalax universe and making this. Are you getting distracted, Glenn? By one of our roommates?
Sorry about that. My apologies, guys. I'm sorry.
No, that's fun and fine. No, so this is a decision we essentially still have to make now, but that doesn't mean that forever and ever we can never return to Digitalax. It just means if we decide not to do it, we cannot publish anything anymore right now, and we cannot keep building out our infrastructure on Digitalax. That's essentially what it means. But for example, talking auto agri, right? Basically Alana's Metaverse, it's something we cannot do anyways on Digitalax because Digitalax is just a marketplace. So I'm just saying, the one decision doesn't really distract from the other decision to being able to build on a certain blockchain out her whole universe. And Algorand is same as Polygon, is super cheap. So, it will be super accessible and we can make stuff work probably much faster than if we would want to build on Ethereum.
There's also nothing that prevents us from doing multiple blockchains. I know there's this artist who did something called Das Punks, because 10,000 is a project with 10,000 images. So what they did is they minted half of them on Tezos and then they minted the other half on Ethereum, and you can pick and choose wherever you want to buy. Obviously, the ones on Ethereum they sell for a higher price than the one on Tezos, but the people that are on Tezos, they're still buying those NFTs because they like them. It would be the same thing for Alana. You can do a collection where you mint maybe 5 on Algorand, you might do 5 on Ethereum, you might do 5 on Polygon, 5 on some other Luxo chain, right? That's the beauty of it, right? You can go multiple places. The other thing that's sort of interesting is that all the Digitalaxes, their contracts are sort of open source. They have a GitHub actual repository, so anyone can actually go there and use them if they want to. Right. So even though we might be locked out from listing on the front end is where you put your dresses or your fashion stuff where it gets listed there. Right. Someone can still actually use the their smart contracts to mint an item. Right. If you have access to it, you can actually use it essentially.
Yeah, that's true. Although the repo is big chaos, but yeah, it's true.
I haven't looked at it, so it's probably not organized, or maybe they just haven't documented it too well.
No, they I think they just ran out of time with all the stuff that's going on. Eventually, they will get it probably done. Yeah, no, but like Glenn said, we are not entirely deciding against something. We are just making sure, in a sense, that we hit the right timing from a strategic perspective, and also, make it fair to the people who want to collaborate with us. I think that that's at the core of this whole decision. Does that make sense to everyone here?
Yeah.
Okay, it's good.
Oh man, what to do? I don't know.
Yeah, I this is not an easy decision, and like I said, whatever is the decision, I won't hold this against anyone. So please, feel free to make it the way you want. I think after we are having concluded this chat, I'm gonna upload it to YouTube, make it a hidden one, that I will only list in another chat I'm gonna do with the inner community, and gonna invite obviously you guys to it, and then that's where I will put up the voting system. Yeah, that's essentially my idea. If you have any other proposal, please feel free. Wait, are you guys still there? Am I talking to myself?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're thinking, Stella.
Okay.
Oh,
Catherine?
no, I'm sorry. I mean, I woke up an hour ago, so I'm also. I don't know. I just have 50 million thoughts right now, so I'm just trying to sort them out. So I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I mean, what would the benefit be for us to remain in Digitalax? It's just a matter of reaching more people. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, we would keep using the infrastructure. Like I told you, Emma has been a big supporter personally of Alana. You were there. Alana was 80% of those walls,
the runway. Yeah.
So
a lot of exposure.
A lot of exposure. Was the event itself very exposed again?
Exactly.
Not
Right.
as much actually.
Right.
So still, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard to say. I think this is kind of an intuitive decision. I don't even think that Glenn, who knows all the arguments, has made his decision yet, because it's a hard one. It's not an easy one. I'm the only one essentially who can make an easy decision, because I'm emotionally attached to this. My decision comes from my emotions, because argumentatively, honestly, it probably adds up to be somewhat equal. Probably. I don't even know. But for me, this is an emotional topic. For me, this is not just some random 3D creation. There's much more attached to it. Hence, I had probably an easier time than you guys will have.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely understand your point. Yeah.
Man, yeah, I think I agree with that. For me in my realm, I mean, I've been able to. Well, I'm just thinking about other magicians and magic people that I want to bring in, and I obviously want to provide value to them, because for so long, a lot of these people don't make that much, and so I don't know, yeah. So I'm thinking about that, providing value for them too. Oh, I don't know, but I mean, I'm gonna vote no, so because I think there should at least be royalty. So there, no, but I'm also. I don't know. I'm gonna shut up. No.
Is I guess, sorry, I dropped off, my computer was crapping out. I'm guessing there's going to be a poll done for the people that are in the community that are collaborators with Alana, correct?
Oh yeah, that's when you actually dropped out when I said this. Yeah, so I would set up right next to our chat that we have another chat that's inner community, where I would invite all the collaborators and the citizen and us. And this is where we would take this vote together after I've uploaded the recording of this to YouTube, so people can watch that first, and then take their vote. That would be the idea. Yeah,
Seems
and
like
I would only include really people, because I need to go through the collaborator list. I would only include people who have really contributed, because there are a few who haven't, who claimed that they would, but they haven't yet. So I would take them out before actually doing this, if that's all right with you, because if you haven't contributed yet, you're actually not a collaborator.
makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, agree.
Sounds good. Yeah. Kirsty, you have any more questions or confusions? Which I totally understand.
No.
Yeah, you're good.
I have one
Yeah.
comment, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Isn't it funny how I was gonna put in some files into the open source library the other day, and again there's like not even that many files in there, so I'm actually very curious to see how this all plays out, because even for a while it was only Paola's like one right. So it's like maybe that's why like the article wasn't, I mean, I don't want to make accusations. I'm not. Maybe edit this out. Maybe that's why the article was not really accessible, and maybe, I don't know. I don't want to make accusations, but just.
I think it would have been probably better to include a tangible example. I mean, Emma knows that, not all of us are very knowledgeable in these kind of things, because it's like Glenn said, it comes more from the, software development side of stuff. But like a tangible example would have been good to make this more understood. Like Kirsty said, right? Kirsty tried to make examples. She was like, so does that mean that, essentially anyone could come in and sell, like Gucci could sell Kevin's dress as theirs? Yeah, it's true, But then if you would include those tangible examples, it would also mean that, you would need to admit to the negative side, or to the contra side of this idea, which is, I mean, if I were her, I wouldn't want to do that either, to be honest. You want to keep this as positive and as value beneficial as somehow possible. Still, I think, it should be more transparent on what are the real intentions behind all of this. This is where I say, like, I have the speculation, but the speculation has not been confirmed in that sense, with Digitalax receiving like the $100,000 grant from Rarible, and they've been like continuously tweeting about CC0. So my speculation is that this is essentially the deal between them. She's building out the CC0 infrastructure for them. They give her the money for it to do it, right? So yeah, I mean, including tangible examples would mean you would need to admit that there's not just a pro side to this. It would also mean to, show that there is a contra side to all of this. And I think that's actually why she didn't do it. Doesn't make sense for her to do it. I don't know, Glenn, what do you think?
I mean, I'm wondering if I can still sort of bring this up as a Mona holder. I can still bring this up to vote in the Digitalax DAO. Like, I have enough voting power to actually make that happen. Like, I would assume so. Like, I have a lot of liquidity on Bancor, so if I pull that, it's gonna like rug the token.
Don't rug the project, dude.
But
Under the rug.
no, it's yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely some discussions that need to happen, potentially either from like the Digitalax community as a whole, because I know that the $100,000 grant that they got from Rarible was approved by Rarible DAO, but in order to I guess increase or make that stronger, they're also gonna put that up for vote in the Digitalax DAO. So that's going up for vote supposedly maybe this week, right? So even though the money's coming from somewhere else, it's sort of like Digitalax DAO now has to sort of like accept it, right? So that's going up for vote.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if the same can be done for the CC0, mandates, right? Maybe this can be a simple thread in the governance forum, something along the lines, hey, we think this is important enough for Mona token holders to vote on because it's a change to the system that's going to have major repercussions, right? And see what happens afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Glenn, do you have a suggestion on when we should finish the voting for our decision? Like, I would put it up today, but what would be a good deadline for it, so that people
so
potentially
typically,
could change their mind after something else happens? You know?
Yeah, we typically have most places will give you like 3 days of discussion, so they'll put the topic up for discussion for 3 days, and then after 3 days it goes up for vote, roughly for another 3 or 4 days. They have 3 or 4 days to vote on it, and then once that happens, the votes gets decided. So I would say probably like do something similar. Put this up for discussion, give them the materials, the stuff that Emma has posted on Medium. I know she has a Twitter thread as well. Put all that together for him, and then give him roughly like 3 days to go over it, and then once that's done, do 3 or 4 days of voting essentially.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So like a week or so, right?
Yeah. No, sounds good. So we would have a decision by next week's nucleus call. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Next week would be good. If you start today, the next week would be okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.